big funeral. Never exceed the speed limit, just take it cool. Especially when you are passing a school. Driving fast today and tomorrow, the undertaker might be driving somebody slow. So make sure your brakes is alright, good tires and windshield clear and bright. A bad overtaker always meets an undertaker. So to avoid this sad episode, only one way in keeping death off the road, and that's to obey the highway code. Have some passengers like to involve taxi drivers. They always claim how they late, begging you to drive at a fast rate. Never allow them to confuse your brain. Who want to fly? Let them take a plane, put them out your car and don't care. Your life is valued more than a fear. So obey the law to the letter and always be a model driver. Always let it be your intention to avoid every collision. I say stop at every major road. When you're parking, pull one side off the road. Always obey the highway code. 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 Always obey the highway code.
The Street 919 FM. The Street 919FM.com. The official station that defends the nation. The news from the Street 919FM.com. Here's what's happening.
Good afternoon. I am Vanessa Thomas with the 4 o'clock news on the Street 919 FM and online Facebook and YouTube. In the headlines, Trinidad and Tobago is in a third wave of the COVID-19 virus. Health Ministry purchases 12 new ventilators. Calls to open beaches worrying as low vaccination uptake in North Coast area, and internationally COVID-19 cases in children on the rise in the U.S. And now the news in detail. Trinidad and Tobago has entered the third wave of the deadly COVID-19 virus with the surge of the Delta variant. This month has recorded the most infection cases and deaths since the pandemic hit our shores last March. Health Minister Terence Dialsing continues to plead with the population to strictly adhere to the COVID-19 guidelines, especially the wearing of face mask.
So we are actually, and I've confirmed this, we are in our third wave. If you would recall, we had our first big wave last year, August, September, coming into October. Then mercifully, by November, December, January, it is okay, into March. And then we had another wave in June, July. Then it went down, as Dr. Heinz's figures will tell you. And now we are back up in our third wave at this point in time.
The increased numbers of daily infections and hospitalizations are not having an impact on the people wanting to get vaccinated, as figures remain low.
You have roughly Monday to Friday about 1,200 per day of people accessing the first dose of a 2-dose vaccine on their way to being fully vaccinated, and the Johnson & Johnson 1 dose on the way to being fully vaccinated. That has been the trend for the past 3 weeks or so, Monday to Friday. Yes, and Saturdays and Sundays, obviously the figures drop a little bit.
The increased numbers of daily infections and hospitalizations are not having an impact on the people wanting to get vaccinated, as figures remain low. The minister said it is very important to act as though COVID is everywhere and that it is all around us. The outing is pleading with people, and this includes the vaccinated, not to drop their guard with the upcoming Christmas season.
Continue with the 3 W's, the washing of your hands, the wearing of your mask, very, very important. You see, the mask is probably one of the most important tools. And distancing.
The minister also warned the vaccinated to be extra cautious and avoid crowds.
You really have to be only outside for really important tasks, like working, going to the pharmacy, going to the grocery because you are unvaccinated. That's a choice you have made. We understand that. We respect it. We may not agree with it, but we respect it.
In the ministry's daily COVID update yesterday, it was revealed that Trinidad and Tobago recorded 682 new COVID infections and 21 more deaths. The Ministry of Health has purchased 12 new ventilators specifically for the treatment of COVID-19 patients. Principal Medical Officer in charge of health institutions, Miriam Abdul-Richard, said the number of new infections cases requiring hospitalization continues to climb.
And as of this morning, there are 539 patients, representing an increase from yesterday in the hospitals and the parallel healthcare system, and 106 in our step-down facilities. This is the highest recorded number. In our last wave, the highest overall recorded number was 627.
With more patients presenting themselves at hospitals with severe illness, this has increased demand for ICU care. Efforts are underway to increase bed capacity, and according to Dr. Richards, as of Wednesday, 17th of November, new state-of-the-art ventilators were required.
12 Mindray ventilators, SV300, which are ventilators specific to treatment of critically ill patients with the complications of COVID, were delivered to Trinidad and Tobago and into the hospitals in the parallel healthcare system. The commissioning process started within 24 hours. These ventilators were imported, procured, and approved within 3 working days instead of a usual 1-month period.
Dr. Richards said the ventilators were sourced from a TNT supplier in Guyana, and the procurement was done to meet the Health Ministry and the Regional Health Authorities standard. Dr. Richards also provided the approximate cost for all 12 ventilators.
The average cost of these ventilators, which of course are high-spec invasive, non-invasive ventilators, specific to COVID ICU patients, and subsequent to the request made by our ICU doctors and the team led by Dr. Trotman, was approximately 1.8 million TT dollars. There was no cost to the Ministry of Health in transporting these ventilators.
In other news, Eastern Regional Health Authority Chief Executive Officer Ronald Shaufat is worried about the low vaccination levels in communities along the North Coast amid calls for beaches to be reopened. He said in some cases only 10% of communities were vaccinated, while in others only 19% were vaccinated. He asked what is the implication for villagers as well as visitors if beaches are allowed to open. Internationally, despite seeing a decline in pediatric COVID-19 cases in the early fall, data from the American Academy of Pediatricians has shown COVID-19 cases in children are on the rise again. Nearly 142,000 children tested positive for COVID-19 between November 11th and November 18th, representing a roughly 32% increase in cases from 2 weeks ago. We have this ABC report telling us more.
Concern going into this Thanksgiving holiday. The numbers tonight, new COVID cases up 40% overall in the country as we near Thanksgiving. And cases among children, this number tonight, nearly 142,000 new cases just last week. Here's ABC's Ariel Reshef.
Tonight, pediatricians warning COVID infections among children are once again on the rise, up 40% since late October. Nearly 142,000 new cases just last week.
Over the past 2 to 3 weeks, we've seen a significant increase.
It's just a little pinch and it'll be over quickly, okay?
With children accounting for 1 in every 4 new COVID cases, there's a push to get more shots into arms.
As much as we'd all love to be past this pandemic, we're not. And cases rising is always a concern. Kids are not as severely affected as adults, but they certainly can and do get hospitalized.
In Virginia, 8-year-old Ashlyn South was hospitalized with that rare pediatric inflammatory syndrome weeks after her parents had COVID.
She's always been our healthy kid. I just didn't think this could happen to us, and it did.
35 million children who are eligible are still unvaccinated.
And that was the 4 o'clock news on the street, 919 FM, and online Facebook and YouTube. Recapping the headlines, Trinidad and Tobago is in a third wave of the COVID-19 virus. Health Ministry purchases 30 new ventilators. Calls to open beaches worrying as low vaccination uptake in North Coast area and internationally COVID-19 cases in children on the rise in the U.S. Do enjoy your afternoon. I am Vanessa Thomas.
News from the street. News from the street. 919fm.com.
And we are talking about exciting times under this People's National Movement Administration. We are talking about exciting times under the leadership of Tracy Davidson Celestine and 14 other experienced candidates who come from the bosom of the community.